On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
the voice of King Kong on Broadway, Jon Hoche. I'm saying that right?
You're totally saying it right.
Amazing. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. There are plenty of incredible voices on Broadway right now, even legendary voices. Kelly O'Hara, Audra McDonald, Laura Benanti, Shoshana Bean, all currently appearing on Broadway stages. But my guest today has a bigger and arguably more famous voice than any of them because he's the voice of King Kong alive on Broadway. Kong himself is a puppet, although that's a simple word for such a massive and complex beast. He's about probably 20 plus feet tall, weighs over a ton. It takes several more tons of machinery and 10 men to operate his limbs. And there's a team of robotics operators that control his animatronic shoulders, head, and face. This King Kong literally dominates the proscenium space, not just from side to side, but also from floor to ceiling at the Broadway Theater, 8 performances a week, and it is truly a sight to behold. But a physical presence that big would not make such an impact if he didn't have a voice to back it up. And it's not some recording. Jon Hoche is breathing, roaring, snorting, and quite complexly orally emoting every thought and reaction of a creature that we, as audience members, accept as real and alive from the very first moment he flashes those 10-foot-tall teeth. Jon and the rest of the Kong team are the recipients of the Outer Critics Circle Special Achievement Award, and he's also a seasoned actor on the stage. He appears in a few of the numbers in King Kong and also has credits like Warhorse, Soft Power, Vietgone, and 2 productions of Little Shop of Horrors. He's got a lot of puppetry background in addition to being an onstage actor. He usually rests his voice when he isn't working, but he very kindly agreed to come spend an hour with us. Please welcome Jon Hoche.
Oh my gosh, hello, how are you?
You're a very impressive dude.
What? No, that was, I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm impressed.
Did I make anything up?
No, that's all true, and I'm very appreciative of all of that. So
let's start with how you first found out about King Kong. Some people don't know that this production originated or has its roots in Australia, and I understand it was on your radar even back then.
Oh yeah, King Kong on Broadway really has had a life about maybe 10 years. I think about 10 years ago, they in Melbourne, Australia, they were thinking about what they were doing a show called Walking with Dinosaurs, and it's a global phenomenon, and it's this huge arena show with these life-size dinosaurs.
It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly. So they were kind of thinking, what can we do next? How can we, push the medium and kind of what's a story we want to do? And King Kong came to mind for them. So they started about 10 years ago.
When you say they?
Creature Technologies and Global Creatures are the companies that put together the show King Kong on Broadway.
And that shop actually is being awarded a special Tony Award this year.
They are
for their work on King Kong.
Yeah. So
they were on your radar as part of the dinosaur experience, or
because
you were doing
dinosaurs.
Puppets already, right?
Right. Yeah. I was on the national tour of Warhorse. So I was touring around Canada and all of North America, really. And I saw this video clip of this life-sized King Kong puppet in Melbourne, Australia, and they were saying, "Yeah, we're gonna do a musical with this thing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So
when you say life size, you don't mean the size of a gorilla.
No, I mean Kong sized. I guess is a better way to put it.
And is it 20 feet tall? It's 20 feet tall.
Yeah, he's 20 feet tall. He weighs 1.2 tons, and there's a mechanism above him that kind of moves him around the stage, and that's 17 tons.
Which is sort of like a marionette device, right?
Yeah, he's kind of the amalgamation of marionette puppetry, bunraku puppetry, and state-of-the-art animatronics all in one. But I always like to say, like, if you think about going to like an arcade and you want to like get those like claw games when you want to get like your favorite toy, if you're moving, the thing that moves that claw around, we kind of have a huge one of those above the the theater at the stage at the Broadway theater. And then the claw, in essence, is King Kong. So he's getting lowered and raised off and on the stage and moved around. So that's kind of how I like to explain it to people.
So that's how they physically put him in space.
Yeah.
But the animatronic part is just his shoulders and head, right? And then the
his
rest is moved by human beings.
Yeah, so his shoulders, his head and neck, all his facial features, and his hips are all animatronic. So
Oh, really? He can dance?
yeah, so we've made him dab before,
Shut up.
and yeah, he can kind of get a little hip action going.
Does he
It's pretty
twerk?
Nice. I don't know if we've ever tried to make him twerk, but maybe at the next rehearsal I'll suggest that.
That's hilarious. And then you are part of a team. There's a patch on your King Kong jacket that you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
What does that patch say?
It says Voodoo Operations. So I'm one of the voodoo operators, and it's comprised of 3 operators, and we're in a booth, much like a sound booth or something like that, in the back of the theater, and we watch the show from that booth, and we have controls in front of us. And I particularly, besides voicing Kong, I move his head and neck around. And there's another puppeteer who primarily does his facial features and does said hip motions that I had mentioned before. And then there's also a puppeteer who moves his shoulders. And that puppeteer is also our Kong captain. So he's calling a lot of the cues to the King's Company, who are the 10 men and women on stage.
Who also, it looked like, because I just went back and saw the show for the 3rd time. It's so incredible. So some of the King's Company are also ensemble singers and dancers.
Yeah,
looked like.
actually, all of them are.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing about
So in
the
addition
show,
to
yeah.
being, I mean, they're all ripped too,
Yeah.
because they're lifting these tons worth of
Yeah.
arms and legs.
But they're also incredible. They're incredible singers and dancers. I mean, I guess now you can consider them quadruple threats because they've got puppetry on their resume now too. But
As do you.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
a quadruple
yeah. I
threat.
guess so.
I'm adding that to the intro.
Fair enough. But yeah. So there's 10 men and women on stage, and they're the King's Company, and they're what I like to say is think of them as like sailing a ship. If Kong is a ship, they're pulling pulleys and ropes. They're climbing up Kong and jumping off of him and holding onto a rope to make his arms move. And it's really exciting and dynamic. And I mean, you've seen it, so you know.
I know, but the goal with radio is always to sort of paint pictures for
The
people who
picture,
haven't
yeah,
been there.
Totally.
And also, you know, in addition to getting the kind of the stats and the official line,
Yeah.
mostly I just wanted an excuse to hang out with you for an hour and we can let people listen in. You know, the best compliment I can ever get on the radio show is like, you know, people are hanging out with friends or
Yeah.
like we're keeping them company on their commute to work.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, so Jon and I guess, first met over social media.
Definitely. Yeah.
I saw you in Vietgone.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I also saw you in Soft Power in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I am friends with the playwright, David Henry Hwang, and I was scheduled to go to your first preview and then go straight to the airport. But because of a glitch with like the calendar on my phone, I was looking at the flight in the wrong time zone. So
that happens to me all the time.
So I was like, oh, I'd have to leave in the middle of the show to even get to my flight. And I
Right.
had to call David and be like, you know, you set these tickets up for me and I'm so bummed. And he said, well, we don't have an invited dress, but we do have one dress rehearsal that afternoon.
Right.
And you can come and sit and watch it. So I was your lone audience member
That's awesome.
for the dress
Yeah.
rehearsal.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
I had so many friends in that show, JG and Ray Lee and a bunch of others. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think we actually met in person until King Kong.
I don't think so. I remember like talking to you via social media at that moment. But yeah, I think it was like the first time, and I got to meet your parents too at King Kong.
Oh my gosh! So my parents came to New York and they said, "Well, what should we see?" And we bought some tickets in advance. And then one day, my mom got up. We had no plans, and she was like, I really want to see King Kong. And I was like, it's incredible.
Awesome.
So we got tickets day of, and you were so lovely. You invited us to come visit
yeah.
that booth, which is really like a little clubhouse.
Yeah.
It's, you know what it reminds me of is have you heard about this tiny house movement?
I want a tiny house.
You
That's like
do?
a dream of mine to have
Really?
a tiny. Like I
You're
literally.
a big guy, though.
I guess so. Yeah, it'd be like maybe I'll put two of them together and make like a mini house. But,
Yeah, not a tiny house.
yeah.
Like
But like
one
to
step
buy
up.
some land in like upstate New York near a lake and like build a tiny house, that's like a dream of mine.
I mean, what's stopping you?
I mean, just I don't know, saving money.
I guess so. Yeah. We'll get you a couple of like major TV projects.
Yes.
You can bank
Yeah,
that money.
and then I'll exactly
Do one play a year, and
Oh, that's the dream.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's why theater actors do television.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. I'm like, I want to do theater when it's nice outside. Like, I want to like come to New York and like do it in the spring and then like the fall. Get away and go to LA for like the winter and the hot months, and then live the dream that way.
I mean, you're on your way. You're doing some pretty
Knock
incredible
on wood.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. So.
So this booth where you watch the show, you're in costume because you sing and dance in the
Yeah.
opening number. You've got a snazzy green handkerchief
I
tied
do.
around your neck. That's
Very
how I can always
snazzy.
tell my friends, like, that's my friend. Look for the guy in the green handkerchief. And then you sneak. It really feels like sneaking because I've done it with you.
Yeah.
You like sneak up this little sort of, I don't want to say rickety because I know it's very well made, but
Yeah.
it's definitely like, there's structures that are built for the audience to see, and then there's
Yes.
structures
It
that
was
are.
definitely built for the show to
Right.
get us to that
So you
opening.
sneak through this little side staircase
Yeah,
backstage,
like a little alcove.
and then you're actually sort of in the audience without anybody knowing.
Yeah, and it's really great too because, that's really like when I'm on stage in the ensemble numbers, I can't see that far into the audience.
Yeah, all those
but,
lights.
Yeah, but then when we're walking to the booth, I go through this little curtain, and then all of a sudden there's the mezzanine and there's the balcony, and it's exciting to see, how filled it is. And just and then I'm just kind of like, nobody knows that I'm the voice of Kong, and I'm just kind of walking past them, and then Kong comes on stage, and we have a lot of fun.
Although every once in a while somebody peeps you sneaking into that booth. There's an article about you in the New York Post that's all
Yeah.
about your journey. And apparently the journalist found you because he saw you sneaking into the booth and was like, what's that about?
Yeah, well, there's a little bit. We try to keep the booth as dark as possible, but we do have monitors in there that we have to use for the show, and so there's a little bit of light bleed. So like when we open the door just enough to slide into the booth, a little bit of light comes out, and I think some people catch that. And also, if you get a seat near the booth, it's not totally soundproof, so you do get two different kinds of shows. You get like the Jon Hoche Roar show, and then you get the King Kong on stage show at the same time.
I want that seat.
Yeah,
I've been
no,
sitting
come back,
downstairs, and I think maybe I should get one of those,
Yeah,
those
totally.
upstairs seats. I want that just because I think it's neat to see you work as my friend, but I also, this is the thing about King Kong on Broadway that I stress to everybody who sees it. The thing that I look for most in theater is something that can't be done in any other medium. And certainly King Kong has been done
Yeah.
and can be done
Yeah.
on screen. If I was watching a King Kong movie and I saw any hint of ropes or machinery or anything that took me out of the world of this being truly a giant ape,
Yeah.
I'd be annoyed. Have you ever seen like a
Totally.
TV show where a boom mic sort of pops in at the top
Absolutely.
and you're like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
do your job, right? But on stage, the coolest thing is seeing the machinery and to simultaneously be able to completely emotionally accept that this gigantic creature is real and has emotions and is going through his own journey that is pretty well personified. I mean, we identify
Yeah.
him with him more as a person, I think, than a beast.
Yeah, I think so.
In fact, the leading lady at one point says, "People got to eat."
Yeah.
And she's talking to him.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
talking about people.
Yeah.
But then you also there are moments when the King's Company, someone will be upstanding on Kong's shoulder, jump down 3 or 4 stories just for the counter movement of him lifting up his arm, and to be
Yeah.
able to watch these, they look like tiny little people
Right, yeah.
jumping and moving and physically lifting the arm muscles without losing the emotional connection to him as real
Yeah.
it's that duality that makes it so theatrical.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with everything there, and I think that's that's one of the beauties of live theater. It's a communal experience, and that's also, I think, a beautiful thing about puppetry. And with Kong, and also when I was in Warhorse,
which, by the way, for people who don't know, sorry to cut you off, but Warhorse features a life-size horse that's built out of.
It was built out of like rattan, like reeds, and it was built from a group in South Africa.
And you can like see through it. It's not a stuffed animal. Like it's not meant to be. You wouldn't confuse it for an actual horse, but its anatomy is so precise that like you can see the rump sort of. I don't know, like undulating
totally.
As Joey was the name of the horse.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to fill people in just in case they didn't know. We're painting, theater of the mind.
Pictures, yeah.
Okay, so when you were in Warhorse.
But that's the thing about puppetry, I think, that is beautiful is when it's done really well, puppets can be mirrors for the audience, and the audience members look into the puppet and they see themselves, or they see the human characteristics, and it's imbued back in them. So a lot of times the emotional connection is there, and I think that's a beautiful thing that we do in King Kong is that we don't shy away from showing the puppeteers on stage and the strings. So right off the bat, you're like, okay, I get it, and you get that conceit, and then hopefully through the show, people can kind of just move on from that, and then they just see him as a character. And because the King's Company do their job so well, they're always imbuing their energy towards Kong. They're never looking out at the audience and saying, hey, look at me, I'm moving the arm. They're always directing their energy towards Kong, and that's that's why the beauty of Kong is that it takes so many people to move him around and bring him to life.
I know that was an important rule in Warhorse too. Like you always make eye contact with Joey, the horse.
Yeah,
I never break that contact.
Yeah, I was in the head position of Joey, so I was actually outside of the horse, holding his head and just like always directing my focus towards him. And that's the same thing for the King's Company. They're always directing their focus to Kong and giving him energy. And
you thought that's where you were going to end up, right? When you were like, I want to be part of this. They're bringing this to Broadway. That's my gig.
Yeah.
You thought you were going to be on the stage moving him around, right?
Yeah, I thought so because, Warhorse was a very physical show. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. I can go right there. I'll do that. And then I went in for the audition for the King's Company, and they kind of looked at my resume, and they were kind of like, oh, you actually have a really nice resume of puppetry here. You don't have to stay for the rest of the day. We'll call you back for the voodoo position later down the line. And for me, I was like, oh, great. Thanks a lot. And
when a casting director says, like, thanks, we'll call you,
yeah,
that often means don't call us.
Exactly. So I was like, oh, great. My dreams have been crushed. But no, they called me back, and the audition process for the voodoo puppetry was really interesting, actually, because obviously we didn't have a 20-foot tall, 1.2-ton puppet to.
Please tell me they brought in a claw game.
That would have been awesome. Oh, maybe good to know for callbacks or for re-auditions.
Replacement casting.
But so they didn't have the puppet for us to work with, so I physically had to physicalize the scenes that you saw on stage as myself. So I walked in, I bought like MMA gloves to protect my knuckles because I had to get on all fours, and I was doing these scenes as King Kong and roaring and screaming and beating my chest and imagining I had a pint-sized Andero in my hand.
Did you use like a Barbie?
I thought about it, but I was like, oh, that might take them out of it. So I had to embody Kong in the auditions and
make the noises.
Yeah.
Did they tell you? I mean, I imagine you can't script out like different kinds of roars.
No, yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, for the audition, they were just like, show us what you got. And thankfully, like, I've been a huge fan of like man in suit ape movies, like since I was a kid. and
Wait,
all the
what
King
does
Kong.
that mean?
So anytime you see, do you remember like the Three Stooges? Like, would always have like a gorilla bit or like,
Oh yeah,
like a vaudevillian.
they play with it in cabaret.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a whole like job in Hollywood called man, and you're a man in suit. Like anytime there's like a werewolf or anything like that, that's like
the guys in Times Square who run around dressed as Elmo.
a little bit,
Except maybe a little cleaner.
Yeah, perhaps.
And definitely classier.
Yeah. So that also is kind of like was a career route that I was very interested in going into. So I was always a fan of these like ape movies and things like that. So I kind of like going into it, I was like, oh, I got this. Like I love these sounds and I can do this. I like did it as a kid, and it's just kind of like tapping back into that. And yeah, and I guess it all worked out in the end.
So I want to make sure that you don't strain your voice.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that you don't give away something for free that people are paying a lot of money to hear. I also know that sometimes a little taste can sell some tickets.
Sure, yeah.
And I also have heard that you are doing incredible training with like opera experts and stuff to make sure you're keeping your voice safe.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about that, but I also can you
a little bit.
Can you give us a little
Yeah,
bit?
sure.
I'm gonna literally ask you to be a performing monkey.
There you go, or an ape, as it were.
Oh,
you
right,
know?
because it has something to do with the tail, right? So
Yeah, like a monkey has a tail and things like that, but like primates and apes, like they don't have tails. Like chimpanzees and gorillas are
they're
a little
apes.
different. Yeah.
And they're closer to humans in terms of their anatomy than monkeys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, good. Well, I'm not asking you to be a performing monkey then.
Fair enough. But yeah, we'll give a little taste. Like, so I don't want to blow out your microphone.
Yeah, maybe just, I don't know. Should I pot you down? Should you lean back?
Well, here, I'll do a little bit of I'll lean back and do the roar, and then I'll get close. And so this is we'll kind of do the first appearance of Kong, but and just imagine, we're on Skull Island, and all of a sudden in the distance you would, and Andaro's tied up, and you might hear, something like this. And then he would land, so you'd hear a big thunderous land, and then you would just hear. And then he would walk forward, and you'd hear these really loud, thunderous thuds as his fists hit the ground, and you would hear.
Oh my gosh, it's so scary.
So that's a little taste.
And I love it. My face is like hurts because I'm smiling so hard right now. It is, watching you do it is so intense because there is something kind of funny about because your whole face contorts.
Oh yeah, you have
and
to
your
get into
lips
it,
are
yeah.
like sort of snarling.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
But then when you're in the theater, and there's this huge thing. I mean, I could look up in the thesaurus and get every word for massive and humongous and stuff. There just aren't words to really describe what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But also because of the way that the noises you just made went straight through a mic, no processing or whatever. But there is some serious equipment in there that, first of all, just amplifies it so that you can feel it in your bones, the reverberation, that bass.
Yeah, we've got speakers. We've got so many speakers in the theater, really, because they want to make it an all sensory experience for you. So really, like when Kong lands and you hear this land, like it hits you right in your chest, and a lot of the roars just hit you right in the chest. And Peter Kolinsky is our sound designer, and he actually I think today was announced that he won an Outer Critics Award for Best Sound Design. So that's pretty awesome. He designed a modulator. So everything that comes out of Kong's mouth is coming out of my mouth first, but it's put through a modulation that he has invented, where it kind of separates the bass and the treble and kind of adds a little bit in between, so it goes from a 6 foot tall Jon Hoche to a 20 foot tall King Kong. But it's interesting because you got to hear a little bit when you took a visit to the booth. And I think I get two comments that I appreciate. I actually do kind of appreciate the comment that I get when I'm signing autographs at Stage Door of, oh, I thought it was a recording. Because, it's kind of cool to think that, oh, those sounds can't come out of a human being. So I kind of do appreciate that. But also, when people finally listen to what I do in the booth, they go, oh, it's actually not that much different.
Yeah, it isn't that different.
Yeah.
And at the same time, well, so like I was surprised too the first time I learned that it was live. I mean, some parts of it surprised me, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, it's so booming. And it feels like it could have been recorded from an actual gorilla.
Right. Oh,
and
wow.
it sounds so much, I mean, not that I've spent a lot of time around listening to gorilla sounds, but if you told me that, it was based on, or that the sounds were made by actual animals and then layered together in some way, I would have believed it because it's that realistic. But I think the reason that it is important that it is not recorded is that he doesn't make the same sound twice. And to me, the difference between a frightened roar and an angry roar is there.
Oh, that's great. That's really great to hear. Because that's really the goal.
Because you're truly acting.
Absolutely. Excuse me as I cough into the mic. How unprofessional of me.
Better get it out of the way now.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine if all of a sudden Kong sneezed?
Yeah. It was funny because there are multiple people in the booth, and one of them did give out a very large sneeze one performance, but I don't remember if the mic picked it up or not. But I was like, I gave him a little side eye as I was performing. But no, that's really the goal is with being a live voice for Kong. It's you can roar, but how many different ways can you roar? And he was always treated as an actor. He's got lines in the script. He does have Kong roar, Kong snarl, and things like that. But how to color that is the exciting thing to experiment with.
And it might even give you more creative license as an actor.
Absolutely.
Because you can make that the subtext of that snarl be whatever you want.
Yeah.
Are there any times that Kong has intention written into the script? I mean, obviously there's sometimes like he's getting chased, he's going to be scared.
Yeah.
But there's one moment in particular where I don't even remember what was going on, but where he kind of goes, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And there is enough modulation on the sound that you don't hear Jon Hoche going, huh?
You're right.
But do you know the moment I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
What does it sound like coming out of your mouth when you do
So through my mouth, that's literally just. I mean, it's very close to what you did, actually.
Right.
So, hey, if you wanted to maybe do a show.
Oh, yeah.
for me,
Okay, well, sure.
Yeah.
Nobody would even notice.
Yeah.
Just don't tell the union reps.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go in.
Yeah.
I did actually this morning make a sound very much like Kong. So one of the things that Jon just endeared himself to me right away when we met, because one of the nerdiest things about me, and hopefully one of the most adorable, is that if you've ever been to a Broadway show and you buy a drink at the concession stands, they will give it to you in a souvenir sippy cup that has either the logo of the theater or the logo of the show on it. It allows them to significantly upsell the cocktails.
Yes, they do.
So get ready to spend $35 on a double.
But they fill it all the way to the top.
They sure do. And you also get this souvenir to take home. A lot of people actually leave them behind because they think they're garbage. But they're these incredibly sturdy, beautiful souvenirs that are only available at the theater. And so years ago, I started not only getting my own, but picking up the extra ones that people left them behind. And I would either give them away to friends or just like have a ton around my apartment. And about a year ago, I started a Facebook group called Broadway Sippy Cup Collectors, mostly because there were some shows that had closed that I didn't have the cups from. And I thought, and I have had tons from certain shows where I don't know, one time my sister came to visit and we decided to bring plastic bags to the theater and picked up like 30 of some.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do with them? I don't know, but I don't want them going into a landfill. And the plastic's so thick that even if they could melt them down to recycle them, it would take so much energy. It really just seemed like...
I mean, they really are meant to be reused. I mean,
yeah, and you do get
at
most shows you get a discount if you bring the cup back and use it again. But for me, especially since I interact with so many fans around the country who can't make it to Broadway, who just want a tiny piece of the shows that they love, this Facebook group allowed me to start sending them just for the cost of shipping to to people who like it was literally a turning trash into treasure kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the thing. The shows, I don't know whether it's the producers, the house managers, probably the concession companies order these cups, and they don't want to order too many because then what are you going to do with them after the show closes, or if sales of drinks are down. So there are generic ones too that they keep as backups because they can use those on the next production that comes through. And sometimes when the logo cups run out, I have a little bit of a fit. I always remind people, and especially myself, that it is not part of the ticket price. It is not a requirement. It's a bonus. We get to be happily surprised when there's a cup to take home, but we can't actually get mad. And certainly, please do not have a fit about it. But the King Kong cups during previews they went fast.
They went very fast.
And then I went, I think, the second to the last show before previews. And there apparently, I found out through talking to bartenders and stuff, that there were some left, but they wanted to have them accessible for opening night.
Oh.
So they had set them aside. And I knew that somehow or another I would get one eventually, but I also knew, I don't know, I wanted one in my hand. Well, John came out. You might have even come out during intermission.
Maybe.
Do you ever do that?
Well, I can, because at intermission I have to go. I have to actually go through the house back to the booth because I start the top of Act 2, manipulating Kong because he gets kind of raised up. So I do have to walk through the house. So sometimes I see people I know and they notice me.
Well, you had a cup in your hand,
yeah,
and I don't think we'd even talked about it. But so then at the times that I've gone back, I've gone through the rows and picked up cups, and I take them home and I wash them and I send them out. And this morning, John sat down at the desks in the office here at DNR Studios, and then out of nowhere, I didn't even see you carrying a bag. Out of nowhere, he hands me this cup that's this stack of cups. It's 3 feet tall. And I think I went, ah! Which is the closest sound I think I could ever make to.
I mean, that's good. That's a great audition. I'll pass your name along.
Good. We'll send this. First female Kong on Broadway. I could get my equity card.
I know, right?
Yeah. I think I would have a hard time playing those ensemble scenes as the guy lifting up the mast at on the ship.
It'd be it would be like a Shakespearean britches role. You'd be like a jaunty man.
Well, and look, gender is not a binary. It's
there you go. Yeah.
Who says that character is, a cisgendered
exactly.
man,
right?
So actually, since most people I think listen to Laura Heywood interviews as a free podcast, which I make it available to everybody on purpose. I want everybody to listen and have access to it regardless of what their financial situation is. But it is also a live radio show, and every episode is available not only live but for a week exclusively to people who are patrons of dnrstudios.com/Laura. And the reason I bring that up now, in addition to encouraging people to throw a few bucks my way so I can continue making this show, because without those paying patrons, this show goes away. But I bring it up now because if anybody is listening live, I'd love to give those cups to some folks listening. So you can call 844-TALK-DNR. That's if you're listening on Monday between noon and 1 Eastern. And if you call 844-TALK-DNR, and then give me your Twitter handle. Then I can contact you later through Twitter and get you those cups.
Yeah, and if they want me to sign it or something, I'll be happy to
Oh
sign
my
it.
gosh. Well, I'll have you sign some to give away in that
Totally.
cups group too. We
Yeah.
have 12 of them. So just give us a call. Again, one last time, that number is 844-TALK-DNR. I, in doing some research for this interview, came across your official website, jonhoche.com.
Oh.
And
Hope it's
of
updated.
course, I did what I always do, which is scroll straight down to the special
Oh,
skills.
great. Oh, great.
What makes you say, oh,
I don't
great?
know. I don't even remember what's on there. That's why.
Well, I know that there people on their special skills list things like languages they speak, dance training, but sometimes people put really fun
Yeah, totally.
things like, and certain times there are actually things you have to learn, like juggling.
Mm-hmm.
On my special skills, when I was an actor, I have high-fiving. I am an excellent high-fiver.
Nice.
There is a trick to it, but it's not the trick people think.
It's not the look at the elbow.
Exactly.
Oh,
it's not. The trick to
interesting.
high-fiving is actually what makes me good at every other thing in my life. You have to actually care.
Aw, that's amazing. Hells yeah.
If you're truly connecting with a person and you're like, hell yes, you. Right now, I am transferring my energy into your body with this hand connection. You'll hit it every time.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's like a good philosophy for the King's Company too. See, you can be King's Company also.
Oh
You
my
can-
gosh. You know what? Just
you can transfer
fire the
energy
whole
to Kong.
cast and I'll
Yeah,
do a
that's it.
one-woman Kong.
I love it. I love it.
So you have, so there's some things on here that look to me like you had training in them. You're a drum major.
I was. Field
You've got the
commander,
puppetry, which obviously we already knew about. Kickboxing, martial arts,
Yeah.
long distance running.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's been a while, I guess. But
And then you've got some like rifle shooting on
Yeah.
here. What's that about?
I think it's just like part of my never-ending quest to be an action star. Is just like, I mean, you have to be kind of familiar with firearms, but also kind of makes you respect them when you learn
Yeah.
about them and things. So I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing and I looked like I knew what I was doing, or it looked like I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but through that, yeah, I definitely learned to respect.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think about how much television and movies in particular, more than theater, although we all know that Chekhovian rule that if a gun shows up on stage, it's going to go off at some
Yeah,
point.
right.
But yeah, like every TV show that runs long term, CSI and Law and Order and all these things, there's guns everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much almost everything on CBS is some sort of procedural. So it's
It is
like,
now. They canceled my favorite sitcom.
oh no,
Life in Pieces. You know that show?
I don't know that show.
Oh my gosh. Well, it just finished its third season, I think. My friend Tom Sadowski is in it.
Aw.
And it's really fantastic. But yeah, they
Well,
just.
hopefully it will live
Maybe
on
we
in
can do like a
streaming.
hashtag Save Life in Pieces.
Yeah.
Tommy was one of my first guests
Oh,
on
nice.
here, and just an incredible guy and a really fantastic actor. Anyway, I digress. The thing on here, though, that I like circled in red pen on your special skills is dragon boating.
Oh yeah.
What is dragon boating?
So dragon boating is kind of like rowing. Like a lot of like collegiate people do like rowing. Or,
Except while being chased by a dragon.
I wish.
It's like a Game of Thrones
But it really
thing.
it goes back to traditional. It's something that that they would do in China, where it's a long boat with a dragon on the end, and instead of you having to do 2 oars, you're only in charge of 1 paddle, and I believe there's like 27 people on the boat, and there's like 3 different sections that you can be part of, and I think I was part of like the engine section because I'm a little bit of a bigger guy, so I can really give a lot of power. But there's I would when I was really into it, I would be on a team that would practice out in Queens. Out
Is that where you grew up?
in the marina? No, I grew up in New Jersey, so I was close by. But I would do this when I was doing a lot of work off Broadway, and it was just a great way to kind of stay fit and get that competitive bug and stuff. But
How did you find it?
actually, there's a off-Broadway theater company called My Theater Company, and they used to sponsor a dragon boat team because they're like the predominant Asian American theatrical entity. They sponsor a lot of Asian American playwrights that you've probably heard of, like Lauren Yee and Lloyd Suh and Mike Liu have all come out of Mai, and they for a period of time sponsored a dragon boat team that would practice and compete all along the East Coast. And I actually was one of the few actors that was on the team. They were just, it was like a community outreach thing. And every summer, there's actually a dragon boat festival out in Queens, in Corona Park, where the like kind of near the World's Fair and everything, where all these people from all over the country who have dragon boat teams just come and race on the water, and it's really fun and it's really cool.
I want to go to that.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'll send you a link or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do it anymore. I mean, I guess you can't right
I don't.
now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got a little busy. Like,
yeah, Broadway show.
Yeah. But I got to say, man, it was one of the best times of my life, it got me in incredible shape. So I like kind of miss it.
Speaking of the intersection between theater and sports, does King Kong have a softball team this year, and are you on it?
We do have a softball team. We play every Thursday, though, and because Kong is a very technical show and we need a lot of rehearsals still to this day, I've always had rehearsal on the days that we have a game. So I haven't been able to go yet, but there is a softball team.
So for people who don't know, this is one of my absolute favorite things, and one of the few times that you can see all your favorite or a lot of your favorite Broadway casts for $0.
Yeah.
During the spring and summer, there is the Broadway Show League, where every cast is invited to field a team, and it's tournament style, and it's in Central Park. There's 5 or 6 baseball diamonds all in the same area, and anybody can just walk up and sit in the stands. I actually was on one of the teams a couple of years ago. I think the rules state that there have to be at least 2 women in every game. And the team that I was on was comprised of the cast of both Fiddler on the Roof and Finding Neverland, both of which have a lot of women in the cast, and they still couldn't find 2 women to do it. So the manager was a friend of mine, and he, I guess, asked them to make an exception to the rule that you have to be in the cast or crew of the show.
Wow.
I guess you can be a friend of the show
Probably,
in certain circumstances. And so I got to play, and I was so lovingly accepted, even though my athletic ability was, let's just say, it improved a lot over the course of the season.
Nice.
And today is very rainy and gross.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's not Thursday.
Yeah.
But once that season gets rolling and the weather is gorgeous, I am going to be out on Thursdays in the stands cheering for my favorite teams.
Awesome.
I can't believe you're still having rehearsals. That's remarkable to me.
Yeah, it's a very technical show, and like I said, the King's Company, they put their heart and souls into it and their bodies. For example, we're just trying to make sure that we're taking care of everybody. We're making sure that our swings and our understudies are all up to snuff and feeling comfortable, and everyone else is feeling comfortable with them. Just rehearsals.
What happens if you lose your voice?
I do have an understudy. There was a moment in time when I didn't in the beginning, but I do now. So I'm pretty confident if I had to call out that obviously the show always will go on. Most of the time, I would say I've never called out sick yet. I have been swung out a couple times so that my understudy can kind of get the experience needed. But yeah, the show always goes on.
Right.
So,
what do you do to take care of your voice? Is there a tea? Do you steam? Do you rest for a couple hours? Do you do warm-ups?
Yeah. I kind of took it upon myself to make sure that my vocal cords and my throat and everything like that is okay. So I reached out to a really great ENT doctor, Dr. Delage. She's an incredible ENT, and she takes care of a lot of people on Broadway. and with her, and also I have a speech therapist that I work with, and we've come up with a bunch of warm-ups, and also more importantly, a bunch of cool downs that I have to do after the shows.
That's interesting.
And it's I kind of live in this like world for Kong, so I do a lot of falsetto work after a show to make sure that stays intact, and I still have that range and I don't lose it. And
Is that sort of like with yoga where you want to do like the counter muscles too?
Exactly. It's 100% the same thing.
Like
yeah.
you don't want to work your left leg out a whole bunch without working your right leg out, or you'll start to be off balance.
Exactly.
It never would have occurred to me that you have to do that.
Yeah. So it's like I always have to kind of because my lower register is getting a lot of work. I kind of have to pull it up out of that kind of world. So I do a lot of falsetto work, a lot of steaming.
We should get you a secondary job in Jersey Boys.
Oh yeah.
Or you play both Kong and Frankie Valli.
That would be amazing.
Sherry.
I would love that. Being from Jersey, being born and raised in Jersey, that I would take a lot of pride in that.
I mean, I think it would be hard to juggle the schedule, probably.
Probably,
but
we'll see. Who knows? I've got an understudy, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe we could figure out. I don't know who's playing Frankie Valli right now. It is an off-Broadway run, so they at least have a different dark day than and maybe you guys could just like
do a job swap. Maybe.
Yeah, double both roles to keep both of your vocal cords.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wonder whether the people with those very falsetto-heavy shows have to warm down with like bass scales.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of go down do arpeggios down the scale, just to kind of keep it fresh.
I'm so fascinated by all of the sort of like instrument stuff that goes on with the human body.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy for someone who hasn't been around it a lot, especially around the super high level professional side, to be like, yeah, he has a voice. I have a voice. Like, I could do that.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple of friends who have done incredibly emotionally taxing roles on Broadway 8 times a week, who have had to they've had to treat talk therapy the way that athletes treat physical therapy.
Yeah.
They have to do it every day, and they have to keep their instrument in tune, or things will get majorly out of whack, because your body doesn't know the difference between, for example, whether you're screaming because you're in agony or you're screaming because your character's in agony.
Yeah. And not only that, it's just it is an instrument, and they are muscles. So like we have a part-time physical therapist on call at our theater, and a lot of times when I say the word laryngeal massage, everyone's like, "What is that?"
Is that your larynx?
But yeah, it's literally like once a week. Our PT, who is amazing, I get a laryngeal massage where she massages and loosens my muscles around my neck, because I find that my neck and shoulders get really tense from all the screaming. But not only that, but like it's like, probing inside your mouth and putting pressure points and releasing your jaw and things like that. So, anyone can get a laryngeal massage. But it's funny because you feel amazing afterwards, but it's not the most. It's pretty painful.
Oh, I can.
But
only imagine.
in a good way, you're like, this pain will lead to something better. So.
Oh, I hope your physical therapist's wearing gloves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's all hygienic and on
Totally.
the up and up.
Yeah.
I also love, and listeners of Laura Heywood interviews know that I always close the show talking about an organization doing good in the world. I don't see the point of having a public platform of any kind if you're not using it to make the world a better place. So I love to invite my guests to talk about a just cause that they believe in. And I am so touched that the one that you chose is so close to the work you're doing right now.
Yeah. I'd love to just bring into light the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund. Diane Fossey, many of you know from the movie Gorillas in the Mist, was
not related to Bob Fosse.
No. But equally an amazing person.
Oh yeah.
She has passed on, but her foundation continues to bring conservation to mountain gorillas all over in their habitats and things like that. and I actually, the beautiful thing about this show is I've actually had the honor of meeting people in the primate world from the Lincoln Park Zoo and from the Chicago Zoo, and they've come and they've been very appreciative of what I do and kind of talking about gorillas when I can.
You certainly make this giant ape feel like I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Like you just want to take him into your arms and love on him.
Yeah, and that's what gorillas are. I mean, they are wild creatures, but some like the Diane Fossey Fund and the zoos around the country here have been doing amazing work. For example, like the Bronx Zoo has an amazing enclosure that I visited many times when I was researching the show. They actually performed the first cataract surgery on a gorilla at the Bronx Zoo.
Wow. And when you say enclosure, I think it's important to stress that these are like acres and acres, right? Like they're
not cages.
Yeah.
That's something that I think a lot of people have to kind of get away from is like what the folks from the Lincoln Park Zoo and the Chicago Zoo said to me is that, the gorillas that are in these enclosures all over the world, they're delegates to the gorillas that are out in the wild, and without them we wouldn't be able to examine their behavioral, what they're doing, and how to interact with them and how to help them. So I just love to try to help them as much as I can.
So people can find out more about the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund at gorillafund.org and on social media at Saving Gorillas. I was very excited because I went to gorillafund.org and the very first thing it says is adopt a gorilla. And I was like, I'm getting my own. I live in a small New York City apartment. And I've been like, should I get a cat?
I have 2 cats. They're great. But
And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have an opportunity to adopt a gorilla.
Yeah.
I hope he's not as big as Kong, but you know what? Like we could share a bed. It'll be cool.
Though.
But guess what? You're only symbolically adopting a gorilla, which is probably a good thing because I don't imagine they make good house pets.
Probably not.
But
they would be more like roommates, actually. So.
They probably would, except you'd also have to pick up their poop.
Yeah.
And really, you really don't have to say much more to me than that to get me to to stop, to really re-question how much fun it would be. But for as little as $40, you can symbolically adopt a gorilla, and you get and that's for an infant, which I would think of course, how would you not want to adopt a cute little baby? Just looking at the pictures, their eyes are so human and full of emotion. I mean, again, this is addressed in the show.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever tell you have sad eyes?
Yeah.
I mean, if we all pooled our money, we could really make a big difference.
Absolutely.
So, John, I'm going to make a donation to the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund today on your behalf. And I really believe that every little bit helps. And so if everyone listening gave a few dollars, we could make a significant difference. And I also love about the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund is that everything that they do is they consider holistic and fully green.
Yeah.
There's a paragraph on the website about the far-reaching effects of saving gorillas, because saving them also saves their habitats. And their habitats, of course, are the habitats to so many other creatures and plant species. And the entire planet ends up benefiting when we support the gorillas through this fund. So, I mean, what's the downside? You skip your Starbucks 1 week. In fact, I know that a major job for me right now is to get people to spend their $6.95 a month on dnrstudios.com/Laura. So I can keep making my work. But you know what? If you're only skipping 1 cup of coffee and you've only got a few dollars to give today, keep listening to my podcast for free and give your money to the gorillas instead.
Oh, thank you so much.
John.
Yes.
You are so much fun.
Aw, thank you. It's amazing being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so we still have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
If anybody else wants to call in, we still have a couple of cups left, so you can call 844-TALK-DNR if you are listening live. This is one of the benefits, of paying that $6.95 a month. Oh, yeah, $6.95 a month. dnrstudios.com/Laura. This is just the first of many contests that are only going to be available for people who are listening live, and of course, you can listen week early. But I also want to just express some appreciation for the people who are listening in any form, because I am a complicated gal who loves a lot of different things, and I especially love connecting with people and having a platform where I can do it, and to be able to put it out in the world and connect with people that I don't get to be in the room with is really special for me too. So just no commitment required, but go check out DNR Studios. I should say, have a ton of other programming. DNR stands for Derek and Romaine, who are incredible talk show hosts, host a daily show. Taylor Strecker has a show. We've got one called Anxiety, which is all about mental health and kind of gossip in the mental health space.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's a really special. People have been asking me for years, how come you don't do a Broadway Girl podcast? Your background's in radio, you have this big audience, and my answer always was, I'm waiting for the right partners. And the best thing about DNR is that they, in addition to saying, come and make whatever you want, they were like, you don't have to make it just Broadway. Of course, anywhere I go, I'm going to bring my love for Broadway, but I've also had fitness experts and mental health people on. I've had big stars that everybody's heard of. Like my first guest was Mandy Gonzalez from Hamilton. I've had Tony winners. Tanya Pinkins came on the show.
Yeah.
But then I can also bring in like my friend April Kidwell, who created her own show from scratch. That's her own life story told via parody of I, Tanya and Showgirls.
Amazing.
Called I Know Me, but it's April's
amazing.
story, and she made it herself. And I know her because we both worked at a tiny music festival in the mountains of California together. And any other outlet would say, at least any other outlet that has incredible, beautiful professional studios like this would say, can you just like concentrate on the names?
Right. Yeah.
But here they were like, put your own name on it.
That's amazing.
This is Laura Heywood Interviews. You can talk to whoever you want. Complete creative control, and it's such a gift and such a blessing to me. And getting to have you on, who sort of ticks all the boxes.
Wow, it's a pleasure.
Biggest voice on Broadway.
Oh my gosh.
And also a friend and someone who's just got so multifaceted, and we had all this time to dig into all of it.
Appreciate the time. Thanks.
Congratulations on King Kong, Alive on
Congratulations.
Broadway. Congratulations. What? Follow Jon at Jon Hoche. That's JONHOCHE on Twitter and Instagram. King Kong B-Way on Twitter and Instagram. Go to gorillafund.org and give some money. And listen to all the episodes and rate and review Laura Heywood Interviews. Thank you so much.